we are joined
Yeah.
by Dennis Quaid, who is playing Ronald Reagan in the upcoming film, which will be released August 30th. You were at our shop a few weeks ago. I think.
Yes, I was.
So give us
Ate a
give us your
meal
thoughts.
off that floor. Fried an egg outside on
That's
the
it?
sidewalk.
That's good. Hot down there?
It was a little bit.
I bet. Let's go with Ben White for the opening question, and we'll just go through here.
Ben White with Fayetteville, North Carolina Observer and USA Today. How are you, sir?
Excellent. How are you?
Doing great. Congratulations on the movie.
Thank you.
And this is a great compliment to you. You're a perfectionist when it comes to every role you play. And with that said, thoughts on playing President Reagan for this role? I congratulate you. I think you did, for the trailer, you did a great job. So tell us about how rewarding this is to do the movie.
It's become my favorite movie now. Before this, it was The Right Stuff, which had a 40-year reign. So that's saying something when I've done 100 or something movies. But it was an honor to play him. He was my favorite president. And I didn't accept the role at first. It was first offered back in 2018. And, fear went up my spine because everybody knows what Reagan, he's like Muhammad Ali. Everybody knows what he looks like, sounds like, and all that. I didn't want to do an impersonation like Saturday Night Live, and wanted to try to find out, get down to the human being. And so I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. And I went out to the Reagan Ranch, which it's not a place open to the public. It was the Western White House, and it was bought by friends of Reagan after he passed, and they left he and Nancy's clothes in the closet. You think they're coming back anytime. But I went up that 5 miles of the worst road in California to get up there and the top, and you come out through the gate, and I could just feel the man. He was a humble man, and he really did do all the work there, dug those ponds and the fences and everything. The house was... He wasn't a rich man either. That's come to find out. The house was like 1,100 square feet. They had a king-size bed, but it was 2 single beds that were zip-tied together. That was the president, the leader of the free world. In fact, he even had a little, because he was tall for that bed, they even had a little footstool extended off of it, so they, kind of sounded a little bit like Lincoln. It was quite. I could really feel his spirit there, and I was lucky enough, to had a year to prepare for it, and shooting it was, and we had quite a journey with that. We shot during COVID, and we all got COVID, and but. We shot at the ranch, and we shot the rest in Oklahoma, kind of pretending it was Dixon, Illinois, and a few other places. And the Berlin Wall was right there in Oklahoma, in Guthrie, Oklahoma. But great cast, Penelope Ann Miller. She's so wonderful in this, and it was everybody there. The crew and cast were so dedicated. It's rare that you get really that type of feeling on a set, and I think that's reflected in the film, which I'm really proud of.
We'll go to Deb down here.
Deb Williams, Auto Week. Thank you for joining us here in
Thank you,
Daytona. And July 4th, 1984 was a monumental day and historical day for NASCAR because of President Reagan becoming the first sitting president to attend the race. And he gave the command from Air Force One, and then watching Air Force One land as the cars came off turn 2 was just beautiful. Have you studied that day? Will any of that be in the movie?
No, that's not in the movie. That's one that didn't make the cut. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of stuff, I guess, that didn't make the cut to a lot of people, but there's so much in this. You get to be... There's all the things I remember. He was my favorite president, if I haven't said that before. There was all those things about his story that I always wanted to see or be a fly on the wall. His days as a boy in Dixon, that shaped him. His years in Hollywood, and that conversation with Gorbachev, alone in the room, and everything in it it's not made up. Everything. I think the only non-historical fact was said and done was my dog Peaches, who's a miniature bulldog. They didn't have one. But that's about she plays the family dog, and that's the only thing that's not a fact.
Thank you.
Jerry?
Over here, Jerry Jordan, kickingthetires.net, to your right.
I know that Reagan really did a lot for NASCAR with that, though. It really started to take off after that. You started to get huge crowds. It became patriotic, really, out here. It was ushered in a new era, and it was he was like that. Yeah, he was the I knew him from a kid as a child. I remember he was the guy that sold Baraxo soap on Death Valley days, and in GE, and he knew how to sell, which is a great trait if you're a president, because that's what you're doing. You're selling it to the American people, and you're selling it to the world. And he did a lot for NASCAR. I bet it was.
Mr. Quaid, Jerry Jordan, kickingthetires.net. So obviously you already had a vast knowledge of President Reagan and his history, but in preparing for a role, obviously you would study and talk to people. Who were some of the people instrumental in talking that you talked with to get the story, to get the character, and kind of learn some of the things that you were just dovetailing into in your previous answer?
Well, first and foremost, when I went out to the Reagan Ranch, John Barletta, Trevor is here, I think, he plays John Barletta, and he was the Secret Service agent who was assigned to ride horses with the president, because nobody in the Secret Service rode horses. They would actually, a couple of times, walk their horse, while the president's riding. It's not exactly a kind of James Bondian Secret Service thing to do. But John did, and he was at the ranch there both times I went before we started shooting. Just the greatest guy. His relationship with Reagan was over 30 years. He was with him from that time all the way up to the time that he passed with Alzheimer's, and just a great guy. We wanted to put him in the movie as something, but he passed, unfortunately, a couple of months before we started shooting. But people like him who were really close and knew him, Ed Meese, there was, everybody to a person said that this is what, to me, kind of made beyond the impersonation of doing Reagan. They said that there was a part of him that there was a wall there that he was kind of unknowable in that place. This is the great communicator, but there was this private place that he had that maybe Nancy and his mother and God reached, but he really kind of kept himself that private place.
Reed?
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. As an actor, what's the mechanism that you use to get beyond the impression and actually become the character?
Well, it's acting fascinates me because it's about what makes people tick. Why do they walk the way they do? Why do they, Reagan had a crooked smile. Why is that? Little things like that add up over the years. And then, given that, you never get away from yourself as an actor because it's your interpretation of it. And, Tom Cruise movie, no matter what, you're watching Tom Cruise and you're watching Tom Cruise or Marlon Brando or Jack Nicholson or whatever. So the question is, what would I do if I were that person in this situation. And that's the mechanism for what it makes it an interpretation. And, and you try to, you learn everything you can. Like a year I was on YouTube's great because, you got all the speeches and all the footage and news footage and what, for all that outside stuff, the way he walked and stuff like that. And a lot of that outside stuff can lead you to how they feel on the inside. And when I play a real person, especially like Jimmy Morris in The Rookie, or even Doc Holliday, who wasn't around, but Jimmy Morris was on the set every day, and then there was Jerry Lee Lewis, who was on the set every day, right over my shoulder, saying, "You getting it wrong, son." Or Reagan, is that I feel a responsibility to tell the story from their point of view, without judgment, either way, and. But I think doing it from their point of view, out of respect, because if somebody was doing me, I'd want them to do it from to be my side of the things, But I didn't want to do like a love letter as well either. It's kind of a warts and all thing. We all have, our triumphs, and we all have our insecurities, and we all have our great assets, and some of them might be so weak. But he was a great man. That's no question about that.
Go to Ben. To your left.
Dennis, Ben White here, back to me just a second. If you go on the internet, you can see some really funny stuff from President Reagan. I mean, just enjoyable stuff. Did you have a chance to do that? I mean, I know you
Yes.
worked really hard on the
Yeah.
role, but just for fun, kicks and giggles, did you just watch that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the best one is the second debate with Mondale, where he said, "I will not, for political purposes, take advantage of my opponent's youth and inexperience." And but then he picked up the glass and took a sip of water to let it roll out, and that's where he stole from Jack Benny. In fact, he was always hanging around Bob Hope and Jack Benny and stealing jokes from him. Basically, that's what he was doing. He always opened with a joke, and he had that from his earliest experiences at public speaking, because it put people at ease. And and you get down to talking about serious stuff, you kind of get a leg up if you've made people laugh first.
We'll go to Claire B over here. Steph, I have a mic over here.
Claire B. Lang.
Hi, Claire.
Hi. You're a pretty amazing storyteller, and have just really good at talking through a lot of the things that you've done. What's your impression of NASCAR, and what got you here today, and what do you think about the Cowboys that wrangle these cars?
Man, that's something else, because I just love to drive. I did the experience today, in fact. It was just 155, if you want to know. That's what I got. But I just love to drive, always have. And I grew up at a time where, like, A.J. Foyt, who was another Texan, too. And, Mario Andretti was, back in those days. Those guys, I loved it when they used to get, A.J. Foyt would get really pissed and just get out of the car on the track and throw his helmet at somebody going by. And, those are fantastic days. And it's gotten down to where, I don't know if those guys can keep up with these guys or not, just muscle. But, Richard Petty, too, who probably did more for NASCAR than anybody, including, I guess, inventing it in a way. I was going to play Richard Petty, actually, in 2003. Disney offered me the chance to do that, and Richard Petty came down. We were shooting a movie down here in Florida, and Richard came down and met him, and so I got a bunch of time at the Homestead track, and that's what I love about what I do, man. You get to go through all these doors that say authorized personnel only, and it's like a dream bucket list. I don't need a bucket list. I'm on my fourth bucket right now, And Richard was such a great guy, and genuine, authentic, and that's what he also brought to everything he did was authenticity, and that transferred onto NASCAR as well. It's we wound up not doing the movie because I think Disney realized that they were going to have to get some vintage cars and then wreck them, and it was going to be I think the budget probably doubled on that, so it never got off the ground. Damn it, really wanted to do that.
Any other
What? I'd like to play his dad, actually. Yeah, that's the interesting part because he was a hard-nosed guy, He was something else. I know. I love those crotchety guys.
Got one in the second row over there in the back.
Dylan Spalding with Auto Racing Digest. Dennis, welcome to Daytona. Happy to have you here.
Thank you.
What has it been like working, at least partnering with Ty and with Joe Gibbs in this project? Obviously, seeing the car in full display with you on the hood. What has kind of been that?
First
process?
off, man, that car looks so good. But the way they came up with that, I mean, it's pretty incredible. We were in North Carolina a couple of weeks ago, spending time with them. They're in the shop, which is like, man, that thing is clean. Nice. That is fine. And
I love now.
yeah, and did a practice pit stop, which is, man, as you're coming in there, and I guess you're going, what? For me, it was like 40. I'm sure you're coming in, 60 until 60, 70 miles an hour. What's the speed limit in there?
Was it 65 here?
65, yeah. Yeah, those brakes work really good.
They're expensive.
Yeah. Even more expensive now that I was on them. But those guys running in front of you and you like that, stop, like they trust you or whatever. It's really quite something. There's so much to racing as a team effort to begin with. That's, it's like, that's what it really makes it interesting.